Incorporated. Our president, Mrs. Mary Grace Majors, and chair of our scholarship committee, Mrs. Deborah Waters, we welcome you to our College and Career Tuesday Talks. I'm Dr. Sybil Knight Burney, member of the scholarship committee, and we extend our thanks to all of you this evening for sharing your time with us. In accordance with our National Risk Management Policy for all youth initiatives, we ask that you understand that this session will be recorded and may be used for various purposes by Delta Sigma Theta sorority. Please note that your videos are disabled and all microphones are muted. However, we ask that you post your questions in the Q&A or chat box for inclusion in our FAQ document, which will be posted with this recording on our website. In addition, we have our ERT also slide, which states, and it states, whether in virtual setting at home or physically in some formal venue, we must always be Delta ready. So please identify 2 exits in your current location. We must always be assured that there are 2 exits available to us in case of the need for an emergency evacuation. Also, during the COVID-19 pandemic, please remember to wear your mask, wash your hands, and always walk and stand 6 feet apart from others. Please, we want you to enjoy this event. So now, in speaking of this event, our topic for this evening is preparation for the college experience in 2021. Presenting for this evening, our committee chair, teacher, and counselor is Mrs. Deborah Waters. Also joining us is academic success coach from Temple University, Mrs. Danielle Martin, and higher education access partner of the Pennsylvania Higher Education Assistance Agency, Mrs. Tiffany Devane. Again, thank you all for your interest and your engagement here this evening. I now turn this session over to our committee chair, Mrs. Deborah Waters.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Let me get the slide right. Okay. Tonight we will be covering 3 parts, and it's just a general, we're going to be giving general information about preparing, applying, and the money aspect of it. So I'm going to start. Okay. And I will be covering three topics. The types of post-secondary ed programs, what colleges consider when looking at a student profile, and some NCAA requirements. So when we talk about college post-secondary education, we're not only talking about 4-year and 2-year colleges. There are actually 7 different types of post-secondary programs that you can attend. The first one being on-the-job training. And this is a program where employers design training established for the worker to gain the necessary work skills while they are getting paid for the job. This can last for 1 week up to several months. Another program is the diploma or certificate programs. These are short-term programs that are anywhere from 6 months to a year, which are for you to gain specific skills for employment at an entry-level position. And then you have your military training. And this is all branches of the military have skills training for 3 years or more. You can use the GI Bill to pay for your college after your discharge, or serve for 20 years until retirement for full benefits. And then you have what they call apprenticeship programs. And these are industrial-based programs which train workers on the job and in a classroom setting as well. Usually, these are 3 to 4 years in length. Apprentices are paid as they go through their schooling. And then you have your associate's degree, which are 2-year degrees, allowing a person to gain entry-level employment in a specific career. And then you have bachelor's degrees. These are 4-year degrees with a combination of general education courses and a specific major. And then after that, you have graduate and professional degrees. These are postgraduate degrees, typically running from anywhere from 1 to 5 years beyond your bachelor's degree. So we're going to go into part 2 and look at what colleges consider when looking at a student profile. And there are several primary factors. Your high school academic record is the most important factor when applying to a college. They look at the quality and rigor of your academic courses. So you want to challenge yourself with a rigorous course load and high-level classes, such as AP and honor courses, but be mindful of what courses are required for graduation. For example, most schools require you to have 4 years of an English language arts, 4 years of a math, and that includes having 1 or more years beyond Algebra 2, or 3 or more years of social sciences and history, 3 or more years of science, and 2 or more years of a language. They also look at your academic performance and your grades. Every year counts, starting with your freshman year. Good grades may enable you to qualify for certain scholarships. Class rank, if it's offered by your high school, because some high schools do not have class rankings, is important. Colleges are looking to see how you measure up against your peers. A high rank does not necessarily guarantee you admission into a certain college, but no matter where you rank, there are colleges for you. Now we want to look at your test scores. Okay, and this includes the PSAT, SAT, the SAT subject test, the ACT, and AP, and etc. It is a myth that the SAT is the most important factor of the admissions process. So don't get nervous if your scores are low, thinking that you may not get in, but because they look at other factors. These tests are used to measure what a student knows and what they can do. The PSAT is a pre-SAT test given in as early as 8th grade, but mainly to sophomores and juniors. It is really considered a junior test, and your scores really don't count until your junior year. This is a great way to prepare for the SAT and those schools that still require you to take the SAT. This is the only test that you will be able to see where your deficiencies are on your scorecard. So it's a good test to take because then you'll know where you need to work at for the SAT. As a junior, you can qualify for Merit Scholar if you do well. And this is based on all the juniors that take the test the year that you take it in your junior year. Most of the time, the PSAT is given by your school. If your school is not giving the test, you can ask permission to take it with another school. This should be done in the summer of your junior year, of your sophomore year, or the year that you plan on taking it, if you need to go outside of your school to take it, because the counselors actually have to order the test for their students in the summer. So like in June. So if you know that you want to take the test and your school doesn't offer it, you can ask permission to take it at another school. So you need to see your counselor about that. And then just note that there is a cost unless your school pays for all of it or some of it. There will be a cost, but it's a minimal cost to students. Another thing about the PSAT is that your name gets submitted to various scholarship sources, and based on your school and your major. So you'll start to get, once you take the PSAT, you'll start to get a lot of mailings from different schools, basically introducing themselves and wanting you to know about their schools once you take that. So some additional factors that college admissions looks at, they look at extracurricular activities. You do not need to do a little bit of everything. Instead, try to focus on a few of your interests or passions, and then get involved in activities where you can explore them. This could be a sport, this could be the school paper, the yearbook, or other school-related activities. Also, do not be afraid to look outside of your school for other opportunities that you can get into. For instance, volunteering, you may want to do an internship, do something, work in the field in which you are interested in. Colleges want to see long-term involvement in these activities. And that's why I said a little bit, you know, you don't want to do just 1 year of this and then next year do something else. You know, you want to kind of like keep it going. So like if you are interested in journalism or something like that, maybe join a journalism club, and then that way you can stay with that for the whole 4 years. And then there's your essays. They will look at your essay. Personal statements and essays are both measured of your writing ability, and it gives them a background of each student. Although it is a good idea to show your essay to a few people for feedback, remember that this is your chance to shine and show colleges how you expressed yourself. So you want your essay to be from you. You don't want it to be arranged where it looks like you didn't write it, because they do look at that. They kind of have an idea of how high school students write, and they can kind of pick out if it may have come from an adult or something like that. So you want to keep it, you know, where it's about you and it's you're expressing yourself. Okay. Letters of recommendation. Be sure to read the application and understand the criteria. Some want at least one academic recommendation, and some want at least one non-academic recommendation. On the application, if it asks, you want to waive your rights to view your recommendation letters. This gives more credibility to the recommendation in the eyes of the college. Okay. And then NCAA requirements, playing a sport in college. Any student who wants to play NCAA sports at a Division I or II level must register for the NCAA Eligibility Center. Division III schools do not offer athletic scholarships, but 80% of Division III students receive some form of merit or base need at a financial aid. Plan to do this during your freshman year of high school. It is important to know what division or level your school participates in. Know your high school's NCAA approved core courses, and make sure you are taking the courses on the approved list. You can ask your counselor to find out what those courses are, okay? Because each school has to submit their core courses to the NCAA, and there is a list. You want to keep your own stats. So for instance, if you're a basketball player, you want to know, you know, what your average 3 points are, or what your average field goals are, or something like that. So you want to keep up with your stats and make what they call a profile sheet. And then you can make a video, highlight video, have a highlight video made. And all of this you can do on your own. You do not have to wait for your coaches to do this for you. You are allowed to promote yourself to whatever college you want to attend, okay? So keep that in mind. A lot of kids will come out and they'll say, well, my coaches didn't do this, my coaches didn't do that. You don't have to wait for the coaches to do that. If you know you want to play a sport in college, you can start to promote yourself and contact those schools about that. Okay. And then my final notes are colleges consider grade trends. Upward trends help a lot, but downward trends can raise questions. If a student is experiencing an overall downward trend, often a counselor recommendation or a special letter can address these issues, especially if there are other circumstances the colleges should know about. Throughout this process, please make sure that you are talking to your parents, your counselors, coaches, or any advisors that you have. And then the last thing I would say is don't let the cost of a college be the reason you don't apply. And next we will have Miss Danielle Martin to present her piece. Are there any questions? I know I went kind of fast on that. Does anybody have any questions? You can put them in the chat, and then at the end, we will give you time to ask any questions that you need. Okay.
Hi, everyone. My name is Danielle Martin. I'm the Academic Success Coordinator at Temple University's Harrisburg campus. Just so you know who is speaking to you tonight, this will be my 8th year in higher ed. Prior to coming to Temple, I spent some time at HAC in admissions. So I'm just going to share with you some things that you can do to prepare now, which will probably overlap with a little bit what Ms. Deb said, but also applying your options. Then we'll get into cost, and then I'll toss the baton to Ms. Tiffany, who will come and speak to you about money next. But so as you're thinking about college, it was a comment mentioned about taking academically rigorous courses, right? And so we've all been through scheduling, course scheduling, all that fun stuff, right? Make sure that you're not selecting basket weaving or anything that's super easy right now, because we look at that, right? And so we look at your transcript all the way back to 9th grade. So while you may be having a stellar senior year, you may have had a rough year in high school. We take all of that into consideration. And then if something presents a red flag for us, it's not necessarily that will deny you, but maybe we want to call you and have a face-to-face interview with you on campus. So we're looking at your entire transcript. We're definitely looking at your GPA. Some colleges will look at your class rank, some not so much, but definitely your GPA is one to be concerned about, okay? If you have the opportunity to take advanced placement courses or dual enrollment courses through a higher ed institution or community college, think about doing that. And the reason I say that is because it's going to save you time and money in the long run. Now, what I don't want you to do is to overload yourself and stress yourself out with so many classes that you just become overwhelmed and stressed out. You don't want those things, but if you're able to do it and you're able to handle the course load, challenge yourself and do that. I say that because those, not only is it going to save you time and money, but it's also going to get you college credit, right? And so if you're in an advanced placement class right now, many students will take the AP course, but then they won't sit and take the exam. Okay, so yes, that looks fabulous on your transcript, but if you don't sit and take the exam, then higher ed institutions cannot give you the credit. Okay, what I've seen in the past, I've seen students take AP English, AP History, and then depending on your score, so sometimes you need a 3, sometimes you need a 4, sometimes you need a 5. Depending on what your score is, you can submit that AP score to the institution that you're looking at, and we will give you college credit for that. Okay. Dual enrollment courses. I'm just going to keep it transparent with you. The best place to take dual enrollment courses is through HAC. HAC is very, very affordable. maybe costing you $300 to take 3 credits, a 3 credit course. That's amazing compared to where I work at, which is Temple University, which is running you about $900. Okay, so if you're going to shop for dual enrollment and take some college level courses, of course you need to do your homework and how much is it going to cost you? Can you fit it into your schedule? You know, there's a couple different things that you can consider, but ultimately it's going to save you time and money, and it's a great opportunity. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat, so make sure I'm not going too fast, and we'll address your questions. If you are able to, right now, I know a lot of college admissions reps are out on the road because of COVID. Some are doing appointments by Zoom. So you can go right through your college and career office, your guidance counselor, sign up for specific schools of reps that you want to talk to, and you'll be able to speak to admissions reps one-on-one. Okay. Sometimes those admissions reps are very generous. And if you come to see them, they may waive your application fee. We like that, okay? Because sometimes those application fees can range from free to like $100. So if anytime you have an admissions rep who is willing to waive your application fee, take advantage of that. Apply to that school. You never know. You just might get in. Okay, so think of that. Ask these people, okay, because these people, it is their job to recruit you, right? They want you to come to their school, but you also want to make sure that this school is going to be a good fit for you. So please do not be afraid to ask them questions. That's their job. That's what they do. That's what they're there for. Okay. If you're interested in a specific major or program, for example, if you want to be an elementary school teacher, you might want to know what the particular college that you're interested in, do they have that as a major? Okay, so that's one way of weeding schools out. That is something great to talk about with an admissions counselor or an admissions representative. If you can, and I know it is a little challenging right now in this COVID time that we're in, if you can go on a college visit, or right now, universities are offering open houses. Some are even still holding their homecomings. If you can get with your parents and figure out your schedule and actually step foot on the campus that you're interested in, that will be the best thing for you, okay? It is our job in higher ed to make brochures look pretty, to make the campus look wonderful in the pictures that you see, okay? So if you can, you wanna actually make sure that you can step foot on the campus and see the real, if that makes sense, right? So please, if you can do that, visit these places for open houses. And again, ask questions. If you want to see what a dorm room looks like, ask questions. If you have older siblings who have been to college, take them on the tour with you, or go to their school that they graduated from or that they go to, so you can see the real of the real. Because again, in a transparent moment here, we're going to show you everything that looks great. Okay. You want to see some other things too, because you want to see if you can I really see myself here? Don't go to a school because, all right, I'm just gonna be real. Don't go to a school because your boo goes there, or your friend, or whoever, okay? Because you're going to meet so many people that may not matter a year from that time, okay? So we talked a little bit about taking the SAT and or ACT. Depending on what school you apply to, you may not even need to take that. It just depends on the school, and it depends on their criteria. Working at Temple University, Temple gives you the option. You're able to submit your SAT or ACT scores, Or if you feel like, I'm not really the greatest test taker, so we have what we call a test option, right? And that means that we'll have you write an essay in lieu of submitting your scores. So a lot more of your colleges and universities are adopting that. So whatever school you're interested in, you just need to make sure that you know the criteria of that specific school. So applying, so this falls right in line to what I'm saying. Do your research, okay? You are going to need to find out. And I'm just, again, because I work at Temple, I'm going to use Temple as an example. If you're interested in Temple, this is what we're going to need from you. You have to have a GPA of a 3.0 or higher. Test optional school. So you can send us your scores or you can write us an essay. You're going to have to submit your high school transcript. And you're going to have any additional materials or information that we are seeking from you. So we may need recommendation letters, okay? You're going to need to make sure that you supply those. If for any reason, any of those things are missing out of your packet when you apply, that's going to hold up your process, okay? And could potentially give somebody else your spot. So when you're doing your research, when you're finding out your criteria, it may be helpful to have a checklist. Okay, great, got my application. Okay, great, got my transcript from Mr. So-and-so. Okay, great, got my letter of recommendation. It may be helpful to have a checklist for every school that you're applying to, just so that you can make sure you have your ducks in a row and all the information that you need to submit. You can complete your applications through your guidance office. A lot of times in schools, if you have a career and college center, your guidance counselor can help with that. The guidance secretary can help with that. I do also know some young people who just take it upon themselves, the initiative to complete their applications on their own, which is great. What I will say to you is do not expect your parents to complete your application. Your parents can help you, but at the end of the day, it's not their job to complete your application. They can sit with you, help you fill out information, but it's your job and your responsibility. Okay. Pay very careful attention to deadlines. A deadline is a deadline is a deadline in college, right? So if you want to go to Howard University and the deadline to submit the application is, I don't know, October 1st, guess what they're not trying to hear when you try to submit on October 15th? Oh, I forgot. Oh, I had to work. Oh. On to the next. Because do you know how many thousands of students are applying to the colleges that you want to get into, right? And so again, your personal responsibility, and remember I was talking about that checklist, all of these colleges that you're looking at, they're all going to have different deadlines, right? And so you're going to have to be prepared and write stuff down and know when you need to get it in. For Temple University, our deadline is our actual last time you can hand in an application is February 1st. Do you want to wait to January 30th? No. So just as a general rule of thumb, I like to tell young people, hey, you should be submitting your applications at least by Thanksgiving. And the reason why we say that is because it's going to take a while for you to get your decision back. That's just how it is. If you, at Temple, we have over 30,000 applicants yearly. Okay, so if you think about that, in the schools that you're looking at, these offices are inundated with applications. So it's going to take a minute. So you want to make sure that you have your applications in a timely manner, okay? You have options when you're looking at schools. You can go to a 4-year public or private institution. You can go to a 2-year public and private institution. What's the difference between public and private? The difference is just basically how they're funded. Okay, so public institutions like Temple, Penn State, any of the state schools, Ship, Millersville, Kutztown, all of those are state schools, those are public schools, those are funded by the government. Okay, private schools like Elizabethtown, Susquehanna University, those type of schools, those are funded by what we call endowments or like large donations. Okay, what I will tell you is that a private school might cost you a little more. Okay, also with all of this application stuff happening, I think I said this, but you also want to be mindful of the cost. You have schools that, for example, HAC doesn't have an application fee. You can just fill out an application. And I like to tell students, make sure you apply to HAC anyway. You don't have to go there, but that's a safety school. Definitely apply to HAC. It costs you nothing. Why not? Okay. Temple University is going to cost you about $55 to apply to. Okay. So it just depends on the university and their fee. And they can range from anywhere from $0 to, 100 or more. Just depends on the school. The other thing I need you to think about is scholarships, right? So I put scholarships first because scholarships are free money. A lot of these schools, again, I can speak for Temple. Temple gives out thousands of dollars in scholarships every year based on merit. What does that mean, Ms. Danielle? That means that, oh, I saw, so-and-so's grades when I was reviewing their application. Oh my goodness, their grades are outstanding. Let me give them, and maybe I could give them an academic scholarship. Maybe I can give them some money. There are scholarships that are local you can get from your guidance counselor's office. Our organization, Delta Sigma Theta, has a scholarship that you can apply for as well. So just like I'm saying, do your research and do your homework for college applications, do your research and do your homework for scholarships. Okay, and the same with grants and loans. I'm not going to get too deep in the grants and loans because Ms. Tiffany, who is coming up next, will address that. And I do see a quick question here about dual enrollment. Is dual enrollment typically just reserved for senior year? Okay, so most of the students who take dual enrollment classes are juniors and seniors. And in some cases, there are criteria on the college side, and then there's criteria on your high school side. All right, so you might need to talk to your counselor because sometimes counselors, they'll look at your grade. They may look at your SAT scores. They may look at your discipline infractions. Like you can't have any issues with that. So sometimes school side, they set criteria that you have to meet for the specific school. And then definitely higher ed side, college side, some of them, we definitely have criteria. I know HAC requires you to be a junior and a senior, and you have to come highly recommended from your guidance counselor. Temple University is asking you to have a 3.0. You have to come highly recommended from your guidance counselor. So again, that's two things that you're going to have to check on. And a lot of times your schools will have like a back to school night or a meet the counselor night. I've visited some schools that have dual enrollment nights, and they may have like 4 colleges represented, and each of them are offering dual enrollment to the students. So then that's when you get to weigh your options, see what is the right fit for you, and what's most affordable. Most importantly, with dual enrollment, you need a class that is going to have maximum transferability, meaning if you take English 101 at HAC, I can tell you now that class, if you choose not to stay at HAC, that class is going to transfer to whatever university that you're going to. Okay, that's important to know. So when you're talking to your counselor and where you're talking to these admissions people or higher ed officials, you want to ask them, hey, I'm interested in taking psychology 101 at your school. Am I going to be able to transfer that to Lincoln University? Ask these people questions. That's what they get paid for. Okay. So at this time, I will hand it over to Miss Tiffany, and we'll answer more questions later if you have some.
Perfect. Okay. So thank you, Miss Danielle, and Miss Deb. So for all of you who have never met me before, my name is Tiffany Devan, and I work for FIA, Pennsylvania Higher Education Assistance Agency. As students, high school students, the one thing I encourage all of you to do is get to know who FIA is. If you've never yet been introduced to them, because they are your college and career planning institution that can help you get some additional funding if you qualify to pay for those schools that you're interested in attending. And what better way to actually get your college paid for by someone else than you having to pay for it all out of your pocket. One of the things that I always tell students is that if you've never, ever been a part of anyone else's higher education process, so if you don't have an older sibling or if you, and you've never seen them go through this process, or a parent or another family member, you really want to make sure that you're reaching out to your resources, talking to your counselors in your high schools, because the counselors that are in your school are there to assist you with this process. One of the good things that I always tell students and families is that I'm also a resource for you all. So part of my role at FIA is to be sort of like a liaison between families, students, and the schools. So I am tied to Dauphin County and all of the schools in Dauphin County, and I am a resource. I'm usually at this time of the year in a high school talking about financial aid or doing a financial aid night. Some of you I know go to some of the schools that I either already done a financial aid night with, or I will be doing a financial aid night with. And I point that out because if I've done one already at your school, there are resources and publications that are in the guidance office. Please pick them up and take them home and share them with your parents. Parents, if your students aren't on the line, please have your students go by and stop and pick them up. And if I'm going to be in there, just check with your guidance counselor and you'll go from there. But for this evening, I'm just going to touch on financial aid and the process and the importance of financial aid. In the future, we have another couple of sessions, not this next one, but November session. It's going to be a full entire Tuesday talks on financial aid. But what I want you all to know right now is that there are 5 key steps to applying for financial aid. And first, I want you to know, another thing I want you to know is why it's important. College can be extremely expensive. Most families are not prepared to just write out a check to cover the full cost. And because of that, there are resources that are available to help the students and their families get through this process. You've heard some of this already before from Miss Danielle. Look for the free money first. If you don't remember what she was saying about the free money, that's a scholarship. That's one of those sources. So when we're talking college, I also am expanding that to not just mean college in your traditional 2- and 4-year school. I mean a business school, technical school, trade school, community college, 4-year school, or beyond. There generally is financial aid or resources to help you cover those costs. When I say you want to look for the free money first, in order to do that, you really have to know what types of schools you're interested in attending. You also want to have an idea of how much your family budget, what it looks like, what's realistic, what's not realistic. And the reason I say that is if you know that your family is just not prepared or equipped to really cut that check, you want to dig deep and do as much as you can as a student to look for the free money. So when we're talking financial aid, there are generally 4 different types of financial aid. Financial aid comes in what we call free sources, and that's what we call your grants and your scholarships. And then we also have what we call gift aid, and that will be like work study and a student loan. So a scholarship is generally where you're going to get some free money from an organization, a foundation, someone who is offering free money to a student for a set period of time, as long as you meet the qualifications for the program that they're offering. When we're talking a grant, you're not necessarily going to receive the free money if you don't qualify. And usually grants are going to be tied to how much or how little the household makes, the cost of the school, or what we would call your financial need. You usually have to fill out some paperwork in order to be considered for either the scholarship or the grant. And I also tell students that you want to start that search early. There are some scholarship organizations who offer scholarships to students who are not just freshmen. Who are not, excuse me, to just seniors. They could be underclassmen as well. So start searching early. Generally, you're going to find most of your scholarships are available the senior year in high school. And when we get to our November session, I'll actually give you a full listing of different scholarship organizations that you can start with. In order to get the grants, the work study, or the student loan, you must complete financial aid paperwork. And it's going to be specific from the federal government or the state government. Now, again, the grant is going to also be a free form of funding, but you have to have a financial need. Work study simply means that you're going to get a job. It's usually coordinated either through the school or the state. And instead of the money when you're working going to cover whatever expense you want, it's going to help to cover your cost of your cost of the school. Student loans, it's just what it sounds like. It is a loan. In other words, it is borrowed money that must be repaid, and it's quite often with interest. So you're paying back more than just what you borrowed. You're paying the interest back as well. And if you have to have financial aid, you want to look for it in the order that I kind of spoke about them. Free money first, your grants and your scholarships, the work study, and then those student loans. The second key step is to actually know your specific deadlines. And this was also talked about as well. And I will reiterate, you want to make sure that any financial aid paperwork that has a deadline, that you meet that deadline. My recommendation is that you complete all financial aid paperwork way ahead of the deadline. And deadlines exist for everything, from your admission applications, from your financial aid paperwork, a scholarship application. If a school or an organization is saying this is our deadline, you don't want to give them an excuse as to why you couldn't meet the deadline, because there's always another student who did turn in their paperwork on time, and most people don't pass up free money. And there's not going to be any leftover money left over to say, well, will you give me an extension? No, because all the other students turned theirs in on time and money's gone now, but you can get a loan. You don't want to be that student who's stuck with just the loan. So know the specific deadlines. And something I do tell students is that most of the schools that you're looking at will have what we call a priority filing deadline. So for financial aid purposes, they'll say, if you want to be considered for financial aid, you want to make sure that you get your primary applications into us by a set date. And those deadlines vary. Now, the one thing I tell everyone is if you don't know what that specific deadline is, call the school's admissions office, call the school's financial aid office, talk to someone there. If you're doing a tour or a visit, always stop by their financial aid office as well. If you're doing a virtual visit, go to the financial aid webpage, because it's generally going to tell you everything you need to know. They're going to tell you about the free money that they offer, if they offer any scholarships that are there. They'll tell you about the financial aid paperwork that needs to be completed. They'll tell you the deadlines in which they need to be completed as well. Now, the third step is one of the most important steps, filling out the financial aid paperwork. So the primary application that every student must complete, you don't complete it until your senior year in high school. It's called the Free Application for Federal Student Aid, or FAFSA form. It is a form that's actually issued through the U.S. Department of Education, so it's a federal form. And what happens is it collects key data about the student, their household. So a dependent student, it may ask information about the parents, the student. It may ask the student, what's your name, what's your social security number, what schools are you interested in attending? How much money did you make last year? How much money did your parents make last year? So it gets real nosy is what I say. But it's collecting that key data in order to basically determine what the financial strength is in the household. It kind of makes a judgment call to say, well, based off of, how many people are in your household, the size, the income that you had over a set period of time, we anticipate that your family should be able to contribute financially a set amount for an academic school year. It doesn't mean that's what you have to pay, but it does mean that's what they're looking at. So what I tell all students, make sure you complete the FAFSA application. It's going to ask for specific information about the schools you're interested in attending. You don't have to have applied to those schools or even been accepted to those schools in order to list the schools on the form. But if you don't list them on the form, they won't receive the results of your FAFSA. And you don't have to understand everything that I'm saying in detail, because the good thing about this part is we're going to go over it in detail in November. But I want you to know that you want to fill out the FAFSA. You only fill it out the only high school student who can complete it is a senior in high school right now. You can actually complete it as early as October 1st, which is like a couple days away. So if you're not prepared to fill it out and you don't want to wait until November, you may reach out to me if you need assistance, and I will make sure that my email address is listed in here, and I will walk you through this process. If also your school is offering what we call a FAFSA completion night, I'm probably going to be the person there. And that means you can bring in your paperwork with your parents, you show up, and we knock out the FAFSA. Now, because of COVID, not everyone is doing them in person. Some of them we're doing virtually, so we'll work it out. But because you're on this session tonight, if you need the one-on-one attention, I will make sure that you have it. The next thing I tell students is once you've completed that FAFSA, FIA, where I work at, we have an application as well to see if you will qualify for state aid and some special state aid programs. You fill that form out as well. The good thing is you can complete it right at the very end of the FAFSA application. And then the process with how it works is, let's just assume you're the student, you're a senior in high school, or I'm the student. So I want to go to ABC University, and ABC University is telling me that, hey, our financial aid deadline is November 15th. That means I want to make sure my FAFSA is completed by November 15th, knock out the FIA by November 15th, and any other form that they're telling me I may need, it's going to all be done by November 15th. Now, if I miss that deadline, still fill it out anyway, because if there's something left over, you'll get, but again, they don't usually leave too much money left on the table. So you want to pay attention to those deadlines. But once I complete all the information, then ABC University, again, assuming that's where I want to go, is going to process that information, and they're going to tell me what I may or may not get if I chose to go to their school in financial aid. And they base that off of what I'm eligible for and how much funding they receive from the federal government, the state government, and maybe their alumni or some from endowment funds that they may have, or what we call institutional aid. They'll then notify you what you may or may not get. If you're only looking at one school, they'll tell you these are our costs. This is what you're getting in financial aid. The difference is either what's left over, or this is what you're going to break even. So they may say you want to either be that person who has more money, who's received more money and grants, scholarships, and not so much the student loans because you have to repay them, but you have an overage. You don't want to end up with a shortage, but if you do, that's where the student loans can come into play. So again, they're your last resort. At the end of the day, you're going to make your decision, not just based off of finances, but based off of, is this school an overall good fit for me? Am I really getting my money's worth? I also tell students, if it's more than one school, do a comparison. Compare, what one school is offering versus the other school. Don't stop looking for scholarships though. You're going to continue to look for those scholarships every single month. I always say it's 24 hours in a day, 7 days in a week. You should be doing scholarship searches, especially your senior year. Pick 5 hours in an entire week. You pick the hour, you pick the day of the week, and do the scholarship search. Do something that's showing that you're looking for some additional funding that's out there. Because sometimes at the end of the day, you don't get a lot in financial aid, and you may have to rely on loans. The more you find in scholarships, the less you're going to have to rely on in student loans. Hopefully you'll be able to make the decision that you want, go to the school that you want. Once you have that decided, you then need to make sure that you really have the money to cover all of your needs. So when I talk about school costs, there's your tuition and your fees. There's room and board. Room and board means your meal plan and your housing, like if you're living on campus or off campus. There's also some book fees that you have to cover. So you got to have books. Transportation expenses. How are you going to get back and forth to class? Are you going to choose a school that's far away and you're going to have some plane costs or anything like that, airfare? And then they account for miscellaneous expenses. And that's what you can generally use in financial aid. With financial aid, you can cover all your costs, those costs I just mentioned in financial aid. But also don't forget those other costs that you may have, your own miscellaneous expenses, things that you don't really have to pay to the school, but maybe you have a cell phone bill. There's a certain lifestyle you want to live. There's a certain fashion sense. That's extra money that's coming out of your household's pocket. But I also tell students and families to have a healthy discussion on what's affordable, because maybe you're in a three-parent household, in a three-children household, and parents have other siblings who are in college, about to go to college, or maybe they have other expenses for them. So you want to make an affordable decision. I also tell students, don't break the bank getting your education. You're not buying the name of the school. You're paying for your education. So it's an investment in yourself. You invest in yourself so that you can start the career that you want to have and live the lifestyle that you want to live. But there's more than one path in order to get to your ultimate goal. So again, don't break your bank in order to get there. And when we have our financial aid night with Tuesday Talks, we'll really break everything out. We'll go into detail about the FAFSA. And if you've ever heard me talk about this before, I get really passionate and I go on and on and on. I promise I won't go on and on and on for that night, but it's good information to have. So make sure that you tune in, not just for that one, but for our other sessions as well. If anyone has general questions on financial aid or any other topic that we've talked about tonight, please place it in the chat. And I do see one question that's in there now. Okay, so for work study when you're in college is actually not going to be like a loan at all. So when you get to work study, you're actually earning the money as you go. So you don't have to repay anyone. They don't actually, that's how work study works, is if a school awards you with work study, they'll say, okay, you can find a job on campus, off campus, tied to your major or something like that. And you can earn up to, and they'll give you a set dollar amount. Let's say it's $2,000. And that $2,000 can help to cover the cost of your education. It could be miscellaneous expenses it's covering. It could be tuition fees. Some of them will pay you, most of them will pay you directly. You're going to be paid no less than minimum wage, but you don't owe anyone back. But if you don't work for those $2,000, let's just say you get a job and you quit and you didn't earn $2,000. If you owed a bill and they were expecting you to cover the bill with the difference, there's going to be a gap at the end. So you have to make it up. So this is only going to be for that student who is in college, high school, co-ops and things like that. That doesn't, it's not the exact same thing. So I don't know if I answered that question the right way, but if I didn't, just put it in the chat and let me know that's not where you were going with this. Are there any other questions on the financial aid piece or anything else for that matter? Okay, great. And so Ms. Deb, if you can advance to the next slide. We just want you all to know that, number one, thank you for joining us. And we kind of gave you lots of information, general information about different topics. So whether you're talking about getting ready to go to school, applying to the schools, or the financial aid pieces, we have resources on the slides with web pages, websites that are really, really helpful. Everything from College Board, which is where you go to register for your SATs and do the AP registrations and things like that. Everything from NCAA. If you're still doing research on schools, maybe you don't know what school you want to go to or how much it's going to cost. There are resources for that. And then there are some for financial aid. The one that you see that says studentaid.gov, that is the website you go to actually apply for financial aid from the federal government. And it is also a great website to go to that's going to have lots of just free information, videos, and resources on how to apply for financial aid when you're ready. So if anyone, again, has any questions, we are happy to answer them. And then on the next slide, we want to share with you the next upcoming topics that we have. So in October, it's a great session. Hopefully you all can be a part of this one because it's going to be really informative. It's about college and scholarship application essay writing. So you'll get good tips on how to fill out those college applications and those scholarship applications, and you don't want to miss it because it's going to be really good. Financial aid night. That one is going to be November 9th, and it's going to be about college costs. Basically, college costs money. How will you pay for it? And that is a major question. Don't automatically assume parents are going to pay for it because you don't know that. You don't know the cost. So tune in for that one. And then in December 14th, we have a really exciting one. And I think this was one of my favorite ones from last year. It's the real deal, hearing from college students and grads. So you get to talk to the students and the recent graduates, and you're going to get their post-secondary experiences about paying for school, being a part of school, choosing the right school, what college life is all about. So they make it nice and fun, I think, and I'm pretty certain that you all will enjoy it. You can still register for our advanced sessions on our website, which is listed here. And we will also make these slides available to all attendees. We'll send out an email to everyone who attended, and you'll get this so that you then have those resources and you can peruse and go through them at your own convenience. Again, I am going to type in my email address, and in the meantime, I'm going to turn it back over to Ms. Deb, and she will close us out.
Okay, I'm going to stop sharing the screen right now. Okay. Okay, are there any other questions? I'm gonna check before we. Okay. Okay. Well, I would just like to say thank you for those of you who did join us. As somebody put in the chat, next time bring a friend with you. We may have some prizes and things like that that we want to give away. We hope that you guys, this session was informative for you. I know it was a lot of information, but like Tiffany said, we will send you all the slides and things like that. We do have, again, you can reach out to any of us if you need to. I will also put my email address in the chat. And Miss Danielle, if you want to put yours, you have yours in there. Okay. Let me put mine in here real quick.
And your questions about admissions don't have to be Temple related. I do have a lot of friends and a good network of people who work at other schools. So if you're interested, you just have questions, maybe I can link you to a person at another school that you may be interested in. So you are building your network. So, you now have resources. Some of you know us. So don't be afraid to reach out and ask us questions.
Yes, and as Tiffany said, some deadlines are coming up. We know that some of our sessions might be after you have to do some things, but we're here to work with you one-on-one if that's what you need. Okay, so feel free to contact any of us here. And if there are no more questions, we are going to end our session for tonight, and we hope to see you again on October the 12th. And that one will be probably about an hour and a half because there is a lot of information to cover. We feel that, getting started, filling out the applications, things like that, and the essay are very, very important. So please do attend. And as we said, bring a friend with you. Know there is more than 2 or 3 4 that's on here that need this information, and we don't want you to wait to the last minute because you will need it, and the questions will be asked. Okay, so thank you guys.